Welcome back to State of the Nation. Amnesty International is calling on Nigeria, the UK and the Netherlands to launch investigations into Anglo-Dutch oil giant Shell over its role in a swath of horrific crimes committed by the Nigerian military government in the oil-producing Ogoni land region in the 1990s, although these are thought to be allegations to this time. The organization has released a groundbreaking review of thousands of pages of internal company documents and witness statements, as well as Amnesty International's own archives from the period. The Nigerian military's campaign to silence the Ogoni people's protest against Shell's pollution led to widespread and serious human rights violations, many of which also amounted to criminal offences. Morayo Adebayo is a researcher with Amnesty International Nigeria. She joins me from our Abuja studios. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the show at this time. Let's take a look at your report, the criminal enterprise you call it. You said that evidence you have reviewed shows that Shell repeatedly encouraged the Nigerian military to deal with community protests, even when it knew the horrors this would lead to. You mentioned unlawful killings, rape, torture, the burning of villages. How did you come about these findings?
Thank you very much, Kimba. The report is based on a review of a cache of documents that have come to light in view of the recent case filed by Esther Kiobel, the widow of one of the Ogoni 9, and also information that we received from the UK government in respect of the communication that happened between Nigerian government and Shell authorities at the time. And these documents showed that Shell was constantly in the know of what was happening, and also that Shell specifically requested the support and the assistance of the Nigerian security agencies at the time to deal with the issues of the uprising in the Ogoni community.
Well, let me read an extract from this very release that you had out today. In the midst of this brutal crackdown, Shell even provided the military with material support, including transport, and in at least one instance paid a military commander notorious for human rights violations. The question is, what sources or intelligence did you employ to arrive at this? Because the military has come out repeatedly to say that your reports, especially Amnesty International, are often baseless.
So in terms of our sources include internal documentation from Shell, which they had to make public as part of the case against them in court. And also, like I said, internal documentation from UK government that documents meetings between the government of UK and Shell management. And so these are internal documents of Shell, and also combined with archive documents of newspaper reportings. But most of it is based on internal communication that happened between Shell, the Nigerian government, and also the UK government at the time.
And again,
so these are not materials that come from third party. These are materials that come from Shell themselves.
Again, you say it is indisputable that Shell played a key role in the devastation that we saw in Ogoni land in the 1990s. But you believe that there are grounds for a criminal investigation. So what grounds will that be?
As with crimes, there can be direct responsibility, and there can also be responsibility for aiding and abetting crimes. So in as much as Shell may not have directly carried out these criminal activities, there is grounds to believe, strongly believe actually, that they aided and abetted these crimes. So for example, in certain instances, they provided transport for security agencies who carried out these human rights abuses, knowing fully well that the modus operandi of the security agencies back in the day, in terms of responding to protest, was a violent crackdown. And in certain documents, it showed that Shell was very much aware of the possibility of these violent crackdowns, and despite that, still continued to request the assistance of security forces at the time, and then went on to provide them material support in terms of transporting them to the area where they carried out these crimes, and also, in one instance, paying out money to them afterwards. So the paying out of the money was just 10 days after violent crimes had been carried out. So it therefore shows that Shell ignored all of these violations that were happening, that were being carried out by the security forces, and continued to directly solicit for their support in handling the issue of the Ogoni uprising, knowing fully well that this could lead to further violations of human rights.